cement mixer just...
Sometimes you sit on this arm until it falls asleep.
No.
Stranger.
Have you ever tried
No, I
that?
thought...
It doesn't work.
Oh, he has tried it. Doesn't work in terms
you
of...
sit on it until it falls asleep, and then it just feels like you can't really feel anything in your hands.
Then how do you grip?
Yeah.
You put super glue on it?
So I started recording 25 seconds ago.
Please, no. No, let's restart.
No, that's definitely going in there.
Come on.
That's all good. Now we've got a theme music.
This is the Star Wars episode, though.
I know, but this is just like, we're going to lead into what we were just doing, and this is the introduction to that. And if we stop now, we can't get sued. There, we're good.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to the TGC podcast, episode 5. I'm Eddie. Tonight I'm here with
Julian.
Brendan.
That's not your name.
Caramel Badger. Damn it!
Sorry.
Caramel Badger.
Now they're going to think
Rhys.
that you're
Yes, thank you.
I am the Caramel Badger, yes.
Now, in case you were wondering, we were having a epic lightsaber duel, the kind of which, you know, we're hoping J.J. Abrams will try to emulate in the upcoming Star Wars movie. Now, obviously, this is not the Star Wars podcast. That is still trying to get itself sorted out. But we'd just like to say that we were having a pretty epic battle just then. Now, Eddie, would you like to continue with the introduction?
No.
I thought I was done with the introduction. This is episode 5.
So, what has everyone been doing this week?
What have I been doing? I don't know.
What
I
day
hung
is
out.
it? It's Wednesday. Yeah, it's Wednesday.
I've started watching Ghost in the Shell.
Oh,
Brendan is extremely happy about this
I have
because
a
he is
giant erection.
an enormous anime nerd and has been trying to convince me to watch some sort of...
Good anime for ages.
I'm liking this little bromance that's been forming between you two. The rest of the crew have been noticing it.
This couldn't have happened without Rhys here.
Like, I know it's been like a really subtle thing that's under the surface, but it hasn't been a myth by us.
Oh, it's not we're under the surface, alright. Read into
under the
that.
bed surface.
I will. That pertains exactly to what the first 30 seconds of this podcast was about.
I am the stranger.
Now, so what has everyone else been up to this week?
I worked a lot.
Yes.
Lots of hours of working. I managed to obtain one of my life goals today, but we'll get to that a little bit later.
Yes.
Yeah. So, but don't just hang in there. I will spend a lot of time talking about myself.
We'll get to that soon. That'll be in the news of the week section.
What, did you fuck yourself in the butt? With your own dick?
Yeah, man.
It's like Human Centipede through time.
It was kind of tantric.
I thought it was just like, can't you just do that portals?
Hey!
Yeah. Way to bring it back around to gaming, dude. God.
Well,
We were off
But then
topic.
the two walls will have to be really small, like really close.
really close together.
Yeah, but do you know how hard it is to get that much moon dust?
Anyway. Julian, what have you been doing?
I bought and have been slaving away to Bloodborne, which we will get to later. And that's like literally the only thing I've been doing this week.
We'll get to that soon. Yeah.
Well then.
And Brendan?
So I've been playing the ever-loving shit out of Monster Hunter. Again, it's all I do.
And how many hours are you on?
I'm up to about 80 hours.
So you're just beginning?
Oh, God, yeah. Nowhere close to my mates. I've got, like, 2 of my mates. They got a day of release, and I think as of not yesterday, day before, one of them was up to about 500 plus hours. So, yeah. And he's unemployed, and I can tell why. Yeah, but anyway, news of the week.
By the way, I have been playing Battlefield Hardline. That's the other thing I have been doing, and I don't like it.
He's come back around.
Well, oh, shoot. No, it's not that I don't. It's not very good. It's just not a very good game. The time to kill. I could get really technical here, but basically, with like most first-person shooters, what matters is the time to kill, which means the amount of damage that your weapon does on target in a given time determines how quickly they die. Battlefield Hardline's time to kill is just completely fucked up. And the game, in a lot of ways, revolves around specific power weapons for each class. And so unless you have, like, those specific weapons, you're just going to get dominated if you're running with anything else. So I think that the spawn system is just completely warped. The weapon balance is completely screwed up. Brendan, do you want to let the cat in?
What's the chef?
So everything about the game, it's just not doing it for me. So I'm quite disappointed so far. I mean, there's still going to be like a few more hours with it before I make up my final decision. But at this stage, I'm not very impressed with it. So, what's been happening this week?
What has been happening? Okay, so with the new data retention laws having been passed in Australia, a few weeks ago, people have already started receiving warning letters for downloading, and some people, unfortunate enough to have not seen those warnings, have received fines of up to $30,000 in the mail.
Holy shit.
So, yeah, you should... Those of you that tech savvy probably already have gotten a VPN, but those of you that haven't should definitely get on that very quickly. If you plan on continuing to download things, yes.
I'd like to bring up, like, with the data retention laws and that, we just had the whole thing with Dallas Buyers Club.
See, what confuses me there is they're now trying to get information from before the data retention laws were in place.
Yeah.
Couldn't the ISPs just be like, hey, fuck off, the laws weren't in place for the time you're trying to get the information?
They were trying to do that. 8 of the major ISPs, which is basically all of them in Australia.
I think the only ones that weren't mentioned were Optus and Telstra.
Yeah, our two big major
That's interesting. That's actually really interesting.
They took it to court over the creators of Dallas Buyers Club and were trying to win in court by saying that, hey, they did all this before it was in, so we don't have to give you the information. A court ruled against them, so I think it's about roughly 5,000 people have to...
Yeah, I think it's like 4,736 or something like that.
And now have now had all their information passed on to...
But the whole problem with that is for the producers of this movie to now sue these nearly 5,000 people, the costs would be more than the reparations.
Oh,
doesn't matter. It's about making a statement.
Yeah, but what I assume they're going to do is they're just going to send out letters that look very official to these people, being like, "Hey, pay us now."
Yeah.
Those among that will get scared. Will just throw money at them, like, go away, leave me alone. I'd rather pay you a small sum than get sued by you.
Yeah.
And then those that are smart will go, fuck off, you have no authority.
Yeah. And
well,
the problem with
they do have the authority, but they don't have the authority to enforce it.
And the problem with this is if the creators of Dallas Buyers Club can get away with that, it sets a precedent for, hey, did you download something in 2002? Cool, we're going to go after you because why not?
Well, no, because then... Okay, let's take a step back and let's look at this argument from a less invested position.
Yeah.
What we're saying is that it is okay to pirate. That's what we're saying. No, that's exactly what your argument is. You're saying that it is okay to pirate because there shouldn't be any repercussions for illegally downloading content.
I'm not saying there shouldn't be repercussions. I'm saying that...
Well, what repercussions would you agree with?
Well, obviously not $30,000 fines. People are downloading these things because it's an American show.
They don't want to pay for it.
Mostly because they don't want to pay for it, but there are a lot out there that can't pay for it.
Well, then you're not entitled to it.
You're never entitled to it.
Yeah.
It is illegal, by all means. It's the same thing as stealing, let's say, a soccer ball from a store, which costs $20.
Yeah,
and
but that's. I'm not saying that there shouldn't be repercussions. I'm just saying that the repercussions that they're handing out at the moment are overly harsh.
But like Rhys said, it is a statement because it is a problem. Piracy is killing a lot of industries.
Yeah.
And by an initial strong statement, which they might lessen in time, it will scare people off.
That's what they talk about with like YouTube, like people who put up ad blockers for YouTube. No, not full movies, but like ad blockers for YouTube. Yeah. So when you deliberately circumnavigate YouTube's ad policies, so you don't have to watch ads. That means that the people creating the content don't get paid.
But that's not how YouTube works now, though. YouTube changed their whole paying of creators about a month, 2 months ago. They changed it completely, so you don't get paid on per view or from ad revenue from allowing people to put ads into your videos. You get paid over time watched. So the push now is with the whole live streaming boom that we've had, is for people to put on longer content on YouTube, and hopefully that longer content is enjoyable enough that more people will watch it, and you get more people watching it for a longer amount of time.
Yeah, that's fair enough. But they're not going to get paid from people watching the content. They're going to get paid by the ads that pop up during that content. Like the current thing is that, like, if you watch National Geographic documentaries on YouTube, they have time-stamped advertisements.
Yellow marks where
so
the
you
ads are.
can't skip forward without watching all the ads in between.
Yeah.
And as much as it sucks, like, I can understand that. And
You're getting content for free.
Essentially, you are. And it's the same thing with, like, something like Hulu Plus, for instance.
Yeah,
Okay,
you get
I'm
2
paying
ads.
for subscription to watch it, but I'm also getting 6 ads. But the trade-off is that I'm watching it legitimately, and the money is going towards the people that create it.
The problem
something.
with that is, sorry.
No, continue.
The problem with that is you're paying a premium to have a service.
Yeah, exactly. That's what pisses
And
me
you're
off.
paying to avoid the ads.
Well,
You're paying for this service, and they're still shoving ads down your throat.
No. I'm not paying a premium. That's the thing. That's what
I didn't say a premium. I just said you're paying for this service.
Well,
but
yeah,
they're still
but-
shoving ads down your
Yeah,
throat.
but you also pay for something like Foxtel, which is an extreme premium, where you have less control over what you're getting.
Yes.
Okay, you are paying for a service, but you're paying for the ability to not watch a TV show on a network that is creating that TV
Yes.
show.
But
So when I'm watching something like
back to-
Agents
sorry,
of S.H.I.E.L.D. No,
yeah.
just quickly, sorry, let me finish, sorry. So when I'm watching something like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., that's done by ABC in America, while something like Sleepy Hollows is done by Fox.
Yeah.
So what I'm paying for is the privilege to not have to
watching
watch
Lilyhammer.
all of those channels, but have them in one single place. And the side effect of that is that I lose 3.5 minutes of my life to advertisement.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm all right with that. I just use it as like an opportunity to jump on Facebook. If it's something like Foxtel, which I have a massive issue with,
I have a problem with
because
Foxtel as
they-
well, because you pay an enormous premium, and the original draw of Foxtel was that
It was monopolised.
Hey, pay us money, and you
get,
can
like-
watch your TV shows without ads. But then But then slowly they started adding in. They started adding in like, okay,
Doing the SBS thing
here's
of-
one ad, and people sort of complained, but there wasn't a massive uproar, so they kept doing that, and then it continued on a while
You're
later.
missing
They
the-
kept adding more.
You're
There
missing
was-
the point with Foxtel. Foxtel, the advertisement to me is irrelevant with Foxtel. What Foxtel was is that pay us money because there is literally no other way you can watch these shows in Australia. That's where I'm pissed off with Foxtel, because of the way they monopolise content and charge an extreme premium for the privilege of watching that content. So that's when you get into like the broader issues about pirating. Okay, Game of Thrones is starting up next week, which means that everyone's going to be talking about piracy with Game of Thrones, the most pirated television show in the world, other than Top Gear.
Here's another thing that that some ISPs are doing. Like my brother is with Telstra.
Yeah.
The data retention laws just passed. My brother is on. I don't know. He pays for 200 gigs a month, and he uses maybe 60 gigs of it.
Yeah,
and then just the other
everyone's plan.
Just the other week, they sent him a letter or an email saying, "Hey, we're going to give you 300 gigs extra a month for no extra charge."
Yeah,
it's this. They're doing this on purpose. Like, hey, I've got all this extra data. I can download a shitload more.
No.
Here's your $30,000 fine.
No, that's not what it is. That's not what it is. What
They're trying to trap people.
No, the thing with the one with Telstra was because Netflix came in and signed on with Optus and IINet TPG.
Yeah.
Telstra have gone, well, shit, Optus and Net bet us to that, so, hey, look, we're going to double your data plans. You don't have to pay for it. Everything's fine. So the people on Telstra aren't going to go with a rapid switch to a provider that's providing Netflix.
Yeah. Because that's
Yeah.
the thing, is that these shows, like, to stream 1 hour of content is roughly 1 gigabyte of data. That's sort of what you work at. So I have 200 gigabytes a month. That's 200 hours of streaming content I could have.
Wow.
On top, which is nothing when you start factoring in, like, you know, my normal downloads. Like
and multiple people in the house.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel so poor with like 20 gigs.
But
I'm on like 500 a month.
But the thing is, okay, particularly with...
And we use about 300 of that on a regular basis.
Particularly with something like...
downloads a lot of porn.
And you watch it all.
No.
Particularly with something like the data retention laws and Dublin thing. Like, that's got literally nothing to do with the new laws that have come in. What that is because Telstra is actually concerned because they're not in a position to really offer value for streaming customers.
Yeah.
I remember about 3-4 years ago when I last had Foxtel on my Xbox 360, and they did a deal with Telstra did a deal with Xbox Australia and Foxtel that if you had Telstra and an Xbox, it didn't charge your data, which was actually at the time a great deal. The problem is that Foxtel wasn't a good enough service for me to warrant paying whatever the cost was each month for
I think
it.
it was like $25 a month or something.
Julian, what are your thoughts?
No, I'm actually learning about all of this as you guys are telling me. I'm not going to add anything to the conversation, but we can actually segue to
Glad we invite you.
HBO.
Before we get
he's
on
a
to
Carol
that,
Badger. He's not in a digital world.
before we get on to that, we'll head back to ask you about Bloodborne. You mentioned Bloodborne before.
We need you to talk about the Bloodspawn.
Yes.
Like Melbourne,
Like
because Rhys
Melbourne.
left out the year.
That's right. Bloodborne, like the other games in the Soul series, it's really about it's torturing the player.
This is the spiritual successor to.
It's Dark Souls in all.
Yeah,
but the names.
it's made by the
Slight
people that
modifications in
made Demon Souls, isn't
combat.
it?
Yeah.
Exactly. The exact same format, a slight variation in the combat where it's more. It's
More
quicker-paced.
more steampunk than.
Sure, it is set in the Victorian Victorian era, but in terms of combat, it is quicker paced.
Isn't it Nikola Tesla that makes your weapons or something like that?
I haven't heard about that. No, might be.
Are you thinking the order?
No, that's
I'm thinking the order. Yeah, sorry, not bad.
One was reviewed well.
No, nerds just raged everywhere.
Whatever. I don't keep up with every single piece of gaming news.
So, was the only one who played the Order Rhys?
I haven't played it yet.
you haven't
I'm
played
going to
it.
wait for that game.
Yeah,
to
so
still-
none of us.
I'm going to wait for that game to be a PS Plus thing.
Yeah.
I'm not.
In about 18 months.
Like there was
No, like
No,
three,
all-
probably.
all I really know was
Exclusive.
there was quite a large uproar that the game turned out to be so short. But there was also a large audience that were like, good, I don't have that much time to play games, so
Let's face it, we're all
if
very-
the game's shorter, I can beat it in less sittings, or I can
Yeah.
even sit down and beat it in one sitting.
No, I don't have an issue with short games. I love
Yeah.
Short games are
Okay,
good.
no,
Well,
Games that don't overstay their welcome.
dangerous territory. Okay, because you make an argument that if you pay, say, $79 for a game that takes you 6 hours to beat, then that's not very good value when
Yeah.
you can pay $15 for a game that takes you 3 hours.
Here's my unpopular opinion.
I swear to God, if you say $1 or $1,
No. I am not sure.
Good.
Here's my unpopular opinion. One of the shortest games of the last generation was
Going home.
shortest release AAA games was Homefront. That had about a 4-5 hour campaign. I would have to say that was one of my favorite games of last generation. Not just because sure it had a short campaign that was sort of choppy at times, but it was still a great story.
Yeah.
It had a great premise, and the multiplayer was absolutely fantastic. And it's unfortunate that the
It was
company
done by
went
DICE,
under.
wasn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
the multiplayer was done by DICE, but the rest of it was
Yeah.
made by Quicksilver.
Yeah, it was an absolutely fantastic
By Quicksilver, I think.
game.
Anyway.
And that's my unpopular opinion, because there's a lot of people out there that were extremely disappointed in it and said they hated it because it wasn't a good game or because it was too short. But really, it was a great game. It fell short.
See, my thing for me is, like, I look at gaming in value for money terms. Like, my gaming time is very precious. Like, in the last week, I think I've played maybe 3 hours of video games in the last week.
Okay.
Some weeks it can be 20 hours. Some weeks it can be nothing. It just depends on, like, my roster and what's going on in my life. At that
And
time.
it also depends on how much time you allocate to gaming compared to TV, compared to catching up on shows. And
Yeah,
that
that's
as
the
well.
other thing. Like, I only have so many hours
You
in my
watch
day to...
8-hour-long shows. Congratulations, there's 8 hours. There's most of your free time gone in a week.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
And for me, like, my enjoyment for gaming is group stuff. It's squad-based games. That's what I like
Getting
to do.
together
So-
with your friends.
Yeah, exactly. Which is why I like Bloodborne. It's not Bloodborne, sorry. Helldivers. Helldivers was
Right.
$30. I like the game so much, I paid an additional $10 to get the DLC, partly because I just wanted to give the developers more money. I actually wanted to
That
give
game
them...
had DLC.
Yeah, it was amazing. A game... Yeah, I mean, the DLC itself was whatever.
Oh, yeah.
But, like, it was... to me, that
Yeah,
was incredible value. Like, I've put more hours into Helldivers this year than almost anything else, really.
It's in Battlefield Hardline.
Well, I mean, Battlefield Hard, I've only played it once. But then again, I picked the game up last week, and 2 nights ago was the first opportunity I actually had to play it.
Yeah.
So that was the other thing. It's like, it's not that I've only played it once because it's bad. I've only played it once because I've had no other time to allocate it. But something like, just going back to like something like The Order. Going back to something like Bloodborne. Like, I would never play Bloodborne. Like, that game, I totally get that it's an amazing game. I've seen all the reviews. I've like literally read.
Yeah, you've watched like me play Dark Souls while I've been here. You've seen stuff.
It's just not my style of game. Like, I don't want.
I'm the same.
And that's another thing. Like, I think it's bad. It's just I don't have the time in my life to allocate to being frustrated.
Yeah,
Sure.
And
I'm the same.
I don't hate myself.
I'm the same. I've had Dark Souls on my 360 for almost a year now, from back when it was free on Xbox Live Gold. I've launched it a couple times, but like I never actually started a game because like I launched it and then I was like, do I really want to play it?
Yeah.
Now,
It doesn't. It's not because like I've seen other people play it and it looks like a good game. It's just it's not my type of game.
That's fine. That's fine. Of course, it's like having a different favorite genre of music. But the thing about the Soul series is that amongst all that frustration, it is that ultimate sense of reward that comes at the very end of beating that boss. That short, but immense moment of joy is almost worth it. It's worth all that torture. So
well, I mean,
that's the Leo.
I mean, you'll know what if you and me are friends on Steam. You look at me playing Dark Souls, and I'm still playing the first one because I refuse to play the second one or the DLC for it until I beat the first one because I'm stubborn. And I mean, how long was I stuck on the Four Kings for? Probably, I don't know, 8 months or something.
Yeah.
I'm up to 300 and something hours played of Dark Souls 1, and I've never actually bet the game.
Actually, on the same file.
I'm on the same file.
Why the fuck couldn't you beat the file?
I couldn't beat. You knew I couldn't beat the Four Kings. I built a complete opposite build and just kept getting screwed in that fight.
Right, yeah.
So, and then when I finally did it, I think it was probably 4 in the morning, and you were the first person I started sending messages to because you were on for some reason. So I mean, games like that, they have a crazy like risk reward. You're risking your like. Is my time worthless and infinite for the payoff of, I finally did it, and now I can say that I've bet this, like, stupidly crazy boss?
Well, Julian and I were having a conversation about something similar a few days ago regarding this Dragon Age Inquisition. Julian's just traded Dragon Age in, and he's the one who, like, encouraged me to buy it. And
because you were never a fan of Origins, or...
No, I never played the other ones.
Or Dragon Age 2. You skipped that entirely.
I'm a big fan of Origins, but I will admit I was also close to trading it in.
Wow.
Just because, like, it's a game that, yes, I will replay, but not immediately. I'll trade it in, and I'll probably be like, why did I trade, like, a couple of years down the track, I'll be like, why did I trade that in? I'll get it again for $30 and play it again. It's not the type of game that I beat it, and then I'm immediately going to start another run through.
Yeah.
So, Julian, what did you trade it in?
Why did I trade it?
Yeah.
The game had some amazing mechanics.
It does, yes.
And it was very immersive and all that. But there was not enough pull in terms of the main story, nor the repetitive gameplay. Now, when I say repetitive gameplay, you've got 10 different areas, which are like, huge quests, a ridiculous amount of quests, but they don't really amount to anything. And the main quest itself was very, very kosher compared to Origins, per se. Origins, which had a fantastic lore, the story was, the characters were amazing. So while this game had fundamentally strong mechanics, it lacked a lot of soul.
Yeah.
Dark Soul?
Too easy.
He's a real blood-born. I can't work that segue.
And because of that, it felt like playing a shell of what could have been perfect.
I'm on a different end. I was close to trading it in because I wasn't going to play it again anytime soon. I will eventually play it again. Yeah. But now that the DLC has just come out,
which is more of the same,
which is more of the same, but I have no complaints about the game. I loved it. Sure, it was a bit repetitive and it was frustrating at times, but like, it was a game that gave me. I traded in a couple games and I got it for $20, and I spent 130 hours playing the game.
Shit.
I mean, for me, like I played it over about 3 days. I put, I think, 10 hours into it or something. I really liked it, but then I put it down. I didn't touch it again.
Yeah.
For me, it was like it had the Deus Ex and the Skyrim issue, which were two games I really, really liked. Like Deus Ex, I loved Deus Ex.
Yeah, you were so close to finishing it. I don't...
No, I was only about third of the halfway through. Because I kept restarting it.
Oh, right.
Because I started on PC again, and I absolutely loved it, but I just put it down, and then by the time I came back to it, it was 6 months later, and I was on the same mindset.
Yeah. As where, like, Deus Ex is a game I frigging adore. I mean, I went out of my way to do every single little thing in that game.
Yeah.
I think I've got 80 hours in that, and, like, you know, I'd finish a run, get to the end, and go, new game, start again.
Sure.
Go, and
Well, the new one just got leaked today.
Ooh.
Mankind Divided.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't leaked. It's now the official cover for Game Informer next month.
There you go.
I am.
Oh. Thank you.
See, the thing about Dragon Age Inquisition, it's a fantastic game, but I say, and also a lot of other people have said, that it doesn't really get... It's an interesting game, and it does grab you, but it really gets interesting about 30 hours in. Once you get to Skyhold, yeah. My only complaint there is that Skyhold should have had more customization. You should have had more input into, like, what can you build, what can you improve, instead of just being like, you can do this or you can do this, and then the next option is you can do this or you can do this. It's like, well, why can't I do both? Why can't I have a hospital and a training ground instead of a hospital or a training ground?
Sure. To me, it kind of... It's like the stock system in GTA 5, which I've never actually played. I've only heard about this. It's like having something that minor and going so far away from the main game and the core of that type of game that it's like, why does it even need to have a focus on it?
I understand your point there. Yeah,
I don't actually need that in a game.
Yeah,
it's a very minor distraction to me, but
fair enough.
Care about.
But I've been a big fan of the Assassin's Creed series for a long time, particularly the Ezio trilogy. Yeah. And one of my favourite parts about that was in Assassin's Creed 2 when you get to Monteriggione and you get to rebuild the city.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah.
That was cool. Yeah. That was better implemented than Skyhold.
Well, just quickly speaking about GTA 5, I've played 1.5 heists now, and I've got to say I'm impressed and unimpressed by it. When you're actually in it and you're playing it, it's a brilliant. It's some of the best gaming that's currently out on the market at the moment.
Okay.
To get it going, yeah, sure. Just 8514. To get it going, though, you have to I don't know, you have to sacrifice a goat and then drive at a certain speed until the bloody warp drive kicks in, and then it's so.
The servers are shaky.
Oh, it's.
Okay,
it's
I thought there was an actual gameplay mechanic where you had to actually do that. That doesn't sound.
The servers are shaky, and it's hard to stay connected to the other players.
No, but it's not even that. And that was the least of concerns. The issue isn't the servers. The issue is getting the fucking game going. You've all got to be in the same server. You've all got to be in the same room. You've all got to answer the same message. There's no matchmaking. You can't just get into a party lobby and just launch into it and just do it so there's no bullshit. You have to, coordinate in-game. And it just got to this point where I remember before you could actually activate the next heist, we had to spend an hour just doing, bullshit mini-games before we could actually do the heist. And then we had to do 2 hours of preparation for the heist before the heist would actually start.
Yeah, but that's the whole setup thing.
But it's the mini-game part that really annoyed me. The actual setup was okay. That was cool. I mean, it's a little bit repetitive because it's just different variations of the same thing. But it was actually having to do 5 team deathmatch games before you could activate it. Then you had to drive around for 15 minutes until Lester called you. Yeah. And I'm just sitting there and I'm like, this is literally taking away from my gaming time. I haven't allocated tonight's gaming hours to do a mini game. I've allocated to do a heist. Why are you making it so hard for me to actually play your game?
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. I need that back for a sec. Oh, now this is a little bit of a prelude to what we're going to be talking about in the next major podcast, which should be the Star Wars one, if it actually fucking gets itself
to fruition.
Oh my god. I understand how George Lucas feels now about trying to get stuff done. So, Disney, in a couple of days ago, in a similar fashion to the Catholic Church, have released their official canon, or the Gospels of Star Wars. So anything that is not on this list is either pure heresy, agnostic, or just, completely been burnt and disappeared from the internet, I'm assuming. So I'm going to read to you, Julian. That's probably the next biggest Star Wars fan on this table.
No, the biggest, actually.
Biggest. Oh, really?
Yeah, I will battle you with lightsabers.
Do you want to do that measuring contest?
Duel with lightsabers.
See, I like how he was committed. He's like, I'm not stopping.
No, the thing is, I know how big he is, so...
No, I was actually telling a good friend today that the first day Rhys and I met was actually in a cafe. Well, the first day of uni.
The first day Rhys and I met, we saw each other's penis.
we were in a cafe, and there were little lightsaber candies, or a lightsaber keychain, and Rhys picked them up, one of them, and said, "Oh, this is Anakin's." And I actually corrected him. I was like, "No, actually, that's Obi-Wan's, but from post Phantom Menace." And Rhys like, "Oh yeah," and then we just became closer like that. So yes, I think on the very first day that we met, we established that I was more nerdy in Star Wars than Rhys.
See, just in this conversation, while I was sitting there silent, didn't he sound like the girlfriend in the group? Because I have no recollection of that.
What? Bringing up stuff from 8 years
from
ago
like
that
6
doesn't
years
matter.
ago. Yeah. All right, sweet. So this is the official canon list. Wait. Do you know what's on this list?
Yes, I know.
Oh, fuck. Because I was going to say that I'm a bigger Star Wars
You've
fan.
already seen it.
I've already seen it.
Let's quiz him.
Okay.
I don't know how
so, besides the movies, in between episodes 2 and 3, you've got Attack of the Clones.
Well,
yeah.
that's the movie,
You mean
So
the-
Clone Wars, yeah.
Sorry, what am I saying? In between episodes 2 and 3, you've got Dark Disciple and the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
In between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope, you've got the Star Wars comics, all of them. You have got Rebels. You have got Tarkin, and you've got Lords of the Sith.
Lords
that
of
right?
the Sith is there, yeah.
I'm impressed
Rebels,
so far.
Tarkin, yeah.
And then in between 5 and 6, shit, I don't think there's any there, is
Mate,
there?
There's not. You're right. There is nothing
There's
between
nothing
5
there.
and
You
6.
have this too.
On what? In between 3 and 4?
No, 4 and
No,
5.
in between 4 and 5.
In between 4 and 5. Fuck. Oh, yes. Enter the Jedi?
Oh, comes from
Whoa,
behind.
yeah, I'll give him that. Just for props.
In between... Okay, well, going back, in between
that's
3
a
and 4,
trick
you've
question.
got A New Dawn, which is the Rebels book.
Yeah, New Dawn is between 3 and 4, yep. I'll accept it
4
late.
and 5, I concede on in between 4 and 5.
So, in between 4 and 5, we've got Out of the Jedi, which you mentioned.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a trick question, but we've got Battlefront.
Oh, okay, sure.
Okay, now,
Sure.
what is the only official canon after episode 6?
Aftermath.
Ooh.
Is it Aftermath?
You are
It's
this
Aftermath.
Aftermath.
Yeah,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
But there is more being written. There's like
There's
eight
something like 20
altogether.
topics at the moment.
Now, I think the bit of a trick question with Battlefront is Battlefront should kind of go after episode 6 because it's tying the last
But it's
story
going to
mission's
start
going to
at
tie
episode
in or
4,
something.
I think. But yeah, anyway, so that was very impressive, Julian. That was actually very impressive.
The thing about that is that in the Clone Wars, one of the very last episodes, it actually mentions Darth Bane. Now, Darth Bane has been excluded from canon,
Yes.
but...
Well, let's not go too deep into this because we're going to have save this conversation for the Star Wars podcast.
Sorry.
But that's the type of energy and enthusiasm that we want.
Fantastic.
And
I'll
we
bring
will
it
be
next
quizzing you with a buzzer. So
Yeah, I will,
you have a week.
I'm going to create a Star Wars quiz for you and Alan, and we're going to do a competition.
No. You're in on this. I'll create the quiz because I'm not really attached to Star Wars.
Okay.
So I'll create the quiz and see how much I can fuck with you.
Right, Alan's going to be turned into a steaming pile of band.
I'm just going to put a bunch of clown questions on there for
But-
Alan and he'll start crying.
All right, so that was actually better than I thought it was going to be. All right, sweet. Eddie, you and I, we have a conversation about Marvel Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Before we get to that, quickly, just to mention...
I'm sorry, why don't you just write all this stuff?
He's editing.
I know, it's like, all right, I won't print it off next time.
No, it's just because there's more of news of the week or news of last week.
Okay.
How
News of yesterday.
more of the Hillary Hunt the Truth website where they're releasing little tidbits leading up to Halo 5.
Oh,
But also-
that thing, yeah.
Also, they released... It was last week or the week before during some American, I don't know, TV event. I can't remember what it was.
Yeah.
They released 2 trailers for Halo 5. One was Agent Locke coming out of this destroyed building in this decimated city, and there's this giant gleaming statue of the Master Chief.
Mm-hmm.
And then he looks down, and at the bottom of the statue, crumpled in a heap with like a gunshot wound, is the Chief, and he gives him this whole spiel about, oh, this is all your fault. Is this what you want it to be? But this is what you really are.
Or we could pause it and just watch it quickly.
Yeah.
Okay, sweet.
So we've just come back from watching both of the trailers. There are some subtle differences. The main difference is obviously being that Spartan Locke and the Master Chief are switch places, and there's the Locke trailer where he's the one coming up on an injured Chief, and then there's the Chief trailer where he's the one coming up on an injured Locke.
I don't like Locke.
Now in the Locke trailer, he's in this decimated city.
No, we don't care.
He's in this decimated city,
now.
and there's a giant statue of the Chief, and then there's the Chief, who is like crumpled in a heap. And then in the Chief one, he's also in the decimated city, except the statue is a bit smaller and it's a bit more decayed, and there's a massive chunk missing from the head. Because
is that significant?
It's symbolizing
kind of
that a piece of the Chief is missing in Cortana, because Cortana always lives inside his head, and now she's gone, so there's a chunk of his head missing.
Gotcha.
There's also a whole lot of things with... there's a lot of subtle things with, like, the screen says one of them's holding the battle rifle. You look at them, they're holding the assault rifle. There's some stuff in the background. The Funhouse guys went on a lot about it, and some of their ideas were a lot like, because the whole tagline for Halo 5 is, like, hunt the truth, maybe there's a lot of kind of conspiracy-ish stuff going on with, like, that's not actually Master Chief.
Yeah.
Master Chief was meant to be dead. He's better as a martyr, so we need to take him out.
There's a whole idea behind the Hunt the Truth thing. It's like, because you're going to be playing as Spartan Locke and the Master Chief in Halo 5. We don't know what balance it'll be, but essentially people have theorized that it's like, okay, this is Spartan Locke's version of the story.
Yeah,
now here's the Master Chief's version of the story, and some people have even theorized that, like, the Arbiter will come in and be a literal Arbiter, be like, no, this is what really happened.
Yeah, that's the other thing.
I wouldn't mind that, because I think the Master Chief in some ways is like the weakest element of the Halo universe. He's like, his character is fundamentally boring by design.
Like most protagonists.
But his is deliberate. Like, his is literally deliberately boring by design.
They couldn't do it.
Because the whole idea is that you are the Master Chief.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is why over the series it's developed where he speaks more, but originally in Halo he had very few lines, and even when he did spoke, he spoke very briefly.
Yeah. My prediction is that it is going to be probably closer to what Gears of War 3 did, which is you'd have the main storyline, and then the side storyline would be between Baird and Cole, and their levels would revolve around what was happening in the main storyline.
Okay.
And so you're going to be playing essentially one campaign, but from two perspectives.
Yeah, so not the... wait, is that more like the like Transformers games where it was like the first 5 chapters were Autobots, the other 5 were Decepticons, and you started with Autobots, went through, and there was the overarching story, but you played the intersecting bits.
Alright, so like a really good way to explain it would be like in Gears of War 3, the opening level, you're fighting on a giant boat for some reason, and there's this giant like locust bug thing comes out of it, and you're fighting it, and as you're fighting it as Marcus and Dom, you're pushing it closer and closer to the bridge.
Yeah.
And then when it gets under the bridge, all these barrels fall on top of it and explode and kill it. And then when you do the next level, you're playing as Cole and Baird fighting along the bridge to get to the point where they can drop the barrels on top of it. Yeah. And so the narratives will crisscross like that.
Yeah.
See, that's a thing that I see that they messed up a little bit with the Gears series is 1 and 2 took place almost immediately after one another.
Yeah.
But then 3 had like a couple of year gap.
Yeah.
where they covered in the books, but not many
Who read the
people
books?
read the I read the books, but I know that not a lot of people actually did.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like, we won't get onto Gears because we have a Gears conversation another time.
Yeah.
We'll just stick for the Halo.
Well, just quickly before we get off Gears, one of the developers has recently one of the developers recently come on Twitter and crushed people's hopes for a Marcus Phoenix collection, saying there will not be a Marcus Phoenix collection.
I don't think we need it.
No,
That's,
God, no.
The Gears of War franchise is one franchise that I'm okay keeping last gen.
Yeah.
I don't think that the multiplayer or the campaigns were good. They were solid. Like, I loved Gears of War 1, but I don't think that is one of the games that needs to be remade. I would much rather them just allocate resources to creating a new franchise. Unlike something like Halo, which spans 2 console generations. 3
console generations now, yeah.
But yeah, Gears of War, I'm happy just keeping that one in the past.
Yeah, fair enough.
But so just talking with Halo 5, I'm cautious because so far 343 has done absolutely nothing to prove that they're capable of making a good Halo game.
Yeah.
Really? So you didn't enjoy Halo 4?
No, I didn't like Halo 4 at all.
Why? Because Halo 4 to me
I enjoyed
is like one of the standout games. I
have almost no
loved
recollection of the game. There was nothing about that game that was memorable or impactful to me.
I enjoyed the Halo 4 campaign up until about the halfway mark.
Yeah.
And I didn't like the multiplayer at all.
My thing for the Halo 4 campaign was...
Same with Reach. I enjoyed the Reach campaign, but I despised the multiplayer.
Reach is my all-time favorite Xbox game.
I love
Reach,
the campaign, but I despise the multiplayer. It's just horrible.
My thing with Halo 4 is I got to the last part of the game.
I completed the game, but I didn't like the second half.
No idea what the fuck was going on.
Yeah.
And I'm a pretty switched on bloke. I'm sitting there and I'm going, what the fuck is happening?
I've read all the Halo books, and it even confused me because in the books,
Didn't they change some shit?
in the books, the Didact is the original Didact dies and gets taken over by a new one who is friends with humans, but then he comes out of the chrysalis in Halo 4 and he despises humans for some reason.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, you start talking Didact, chrysalis, like it's
architect, librarian.
But the original
arbitrary
the Halo
title.
The Covenant thing was interesting enough with the Forerunners.
Yeah.
Like that was good. I liked that the Forerunners were sort of this older type thing. It added a little bit of mythology to the game. But the Protheans and it was so unnecessary. Like I'm looking at these.
The Prometheans were unnecessary.
I'm looking like this is not what I want to be playing for a Halo game.
Yeah.
Like I want to be fighting the Covenant. The enemy design for this is shit.
Because I've read the books, and there's a really good story going on there after the human Covenant war ends. Then the humans who are friends with the Arbiter, they're trying to sort of cause a civil war between the elites. So the elites destroy each other instead of reuniting and going, hey, wait a minute, we can destroy the humans.
Yeah, and then
that would have made a great game.
Yeah, and that's how you find out that Covenant, there's a bunch of different sects of it. And
But it turns, but they skipped a lot and got to Halo 4, and it's like, well, now, how did it get back to the Covenant wanting to fight the humans again?
And that's cool. And that's the issue I had with the game, is that there was it's nothing about...
Yeah, it's a passing line, basically. These were this real fanatic sect. They don't care.
The Chief Cortana stuff was interesting. The Spartan 4 stuff... Spartan 4 or 3?
4.
The Spartan 4 stuff was interesting. Even the concept of Locke is an interesting character. The problem is that the Nightfall series was pretty atrocious. Like, there was nothing that was really good about that apart from, like, the hot English chick. Yeah. And the rest of it was just... I don't know, everything that they've done...
Is it just me, or do you reckon she also got made a Spartan 4?
I have zero recollection of anything other than the fact that she wore a tank top. Like, that was such an unmemorable show that was literally the visual highlight for me.
Because there's another new book coming out that's gonna cover Buck from Halo 3 ODST. And supposedly he becomes a Spartan 4.
Well, that would be the trend. Sorry.
Well, but that would be good though, because those characters. I mean, I love what I loved about ODST because they actually had characters. Even like something like Reach, which they were like archetypical characters. Reach was a great game because it was a tragedy. Like, you knew how the game was going to end
Yeah.
before it began. And I love that. Like, that's like watching the Titanic and say the Titanic sucks because you know the ending. Well, no, it doesn't. It's still a great story, even though there is a tragic ending.
Thank you for saying the Titanic's great, because I feel like I'm the only guy who ever thinks that.
No, Titanic is a fantastic
No, we just
film.
like it for different reasons.
Rude.
Yeah.
I can't stand that movie.
I will slap you.
Alright, we should probably
Bring it.
fast forward.
I have an appreciation for Titanic and also a healthy disdain for it, because after primary school, each day I used to go home with this family because Dad had to work late. So I'd go home with these people, and they'd take care of me until Dad came to pick me up. And the daughter watched Titanic every single fucking night.
Oh my god. What a warped view she must have of how men should be.
Yes.
Terrible.
She gets really weirded out when guys just don't kill themselves. For her.
But the fact that none of us have an Oscar really puts us in their favour.
I want to have a quick conversation with Eddie about Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. because that is now my favourite television show.
Currently
that's on TV.
I have no argument with that.
That's cool.
Can I just interject that...
Until next Monday, then I will argue with you about that.
Daredevil. We are going to do a Daredevil marathon.
Oh no, I'm arguing. I will argue with you next Monday because Game of Thrones will arguably become the best TV show on air.
Well, arguably, but Game of Thrones is its own thing. But
Yeah,
for like
true.
something that's actually like a serialized type show, like one of those like long running 6-month shows,
and it doesn't really have an enormous backing behind it. It still is.
It literally has the biggest production company in the world behind it.
Yeah, no, but it has the biggest production company in the world behind it, but it still has a tiny, shitty budget, which is appalling. It should have a much bigger budget.
The thing that I'm really liking about the fact is that they've introduced the Inhuman storyline now, and the way that they're actually setting it up for Avengers 2 is really subtle and very interesting. And I like the direction that they're actually taking a risk, and they're basically creating their own X-Men universe within the Marvel universe, and using the TV show as essentially a test bed to get those ideas onto screen. So if you're a fan of what Marvel's doing, and if you're a fan of comic books, what they've done with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is absolutely amazing. And we have Daredevil coming out next week as well too, which is also set within the same universe, but that's meant to be... Yeah, it apparently is set within the same universe, but it's going to be its own self-contained thing. Like, the saying is there's not going to be any crossover because tonally there's just no similarities there.
Okay.
I mean, sort of.
No, with how they're portraying the show, from what everyone said, it's in the first 4 episodes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do we want to do this now, or do you want to do
we have our first listener question.
Me being the PR weasel that Rhys should be, has
Fucking pay me. I don't do shit for free anymore.
It's true. So we've got our first ever listener question. It's from Jeffrey Marshall, he's a friend of mine. Go check out his store in Preston, Next Level Games, if you ever get the chance. He wants to ask us, what's the best Final Fantasy game in our opinions? I'm sure Julian can talk for hours on this.
No?
I
haven't actually finished one. I've started many.
I think that's everyone's problem.
I'm going to recuse myself from this conversation because I don't want to start an enormous argument. I can't stand Final Fantasy,
That's okay.
That is all I'm going to say.
Really?
That is all I'm going to say because I don't want to start a big argument or anything. I just can't stand it.
Cool.
Really? All right. So it
How
looks
many
like
have you played, Brendan?
I've probably played about 6, give or take. None of them except for Final Fantasy 13 and Final Fantasy 12. 12?
Yeah.
Have been like the major games. The rest of them have all been the
those
spin-off
side
ones.
games. Yeah.
But I'm curious to see, out of all the many you've started, what's yours?
Well, for me, I'm not going to say about my favourite. I am going to talk about the music because for me, the music is the biggest draw in Final Fantasy.
Oh, it is.
Just coming from a music nerd. With regards to sheer composition skills, 4, 7, and 10, all done by Nobuo Uematsu, are all incredible.
Yep.
In terms of gameplay, I love 10.
Really?
Absolutely love 10.
Okay.
The combat for 10 was,
See, now 10's the one that basically anyone I talk to who's a die-hard Final Fantasy fan, they hate. They don't want to acknowledge it existed.
Yeah.
Rhys has even left the room. He hates Final Fantasy. Anyone I've talked to who loves Final Fantasy is like, no, 10. It's like, oh, it was stupid. Yeah. Oh, it was a crappy story.
Interesting.
It didn't hold their opinions. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who love and played all the Final Fantasies, and they're like, 10 is amazing.
Yeah.
For me, my favorite Final Fantasy games, probably 7 Crisis Core. The one that came out on PSP, and Australia managed to get Japanese copies of it for some reason, and Japan got the Australian copies and they got it after we did, so they stuffed up.
That's a surprise.
They stuffed up there.
Hardcore.
It was different to any other Final Fantasy game I'd played at the time. Because I'd played 1, 2, I skipped 3 and 4, I played 5. And then none of them have really held my interest, or I've given a shit about them until 13.
Okay.
And I'm slowly, and I mean very slowly, going through 13, 13-2, and Lightning Returns.
Okay.
Just because I like the character Lightning from an outside look, looking at the character, looking at a lot of cosplayers and that, and asking them why they decided to cosplay as Lightning. They're like, well, it's Rhys is really concerned. They're like, because I love the character, and then they'll give me all these reasons why. But yeah, no, thanks, Jeff. So if you want, if anyone else wants to send in questions,
so guys, let us know that you're listening. Send us in some more questions. We'd love to hear from you. But also, I'd like to pose a question to our listeners. Let us know.
This could be bad.
No, just what would you say is your favorite game of the previous console generation, or even PC as well?
Well, yeah, let's say favorite game from the past 10 years, because that was the last generation.
Yeah.
With regards to generation, don't forget, last generation is now the PS3 360.
Yeah.
Not
the
PS2. Yeah, that sort of stuff.
I want to point out, Lindt sea salt chocolate, really nice.
It's really nice, isn't it?
Where's that chocolate, you bastard?
Downstairs.
Right here,
What is
baby.
the chocolate? Fuck you. You're the caramel.
So now we're up
Don't mix up your flavours.
Julian Caramel Badger is the best caramel badger.
We mentioned before that Game of Thrones is starting up again next Monday. And it says here, what Rhys has written is, why is Julian being so stubborn?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, wait, what?
In regards to Game of Thrones. So yeah, give us the backstory on this. I don't quite understand the question.
I think the better question is, I should rephrase it, why is Julian being so pretentious?
Okay, pretentious. Let's go with
Let's go with stubborn, okay? Go on.
Yes. Now, the original story is I first got into Game of Thrones by watching Season 1. I really enjoyed it and figured, okay, I want to read all the books instead of watching them because I just find reading slightly more enjoyable than watching TV shows.
And 4 years later, how's that worked out for you?
Also because I thought that the books would be written first before the TV show has finished, which has now actually gone all topsy-turvy, and they've actually declared that Season 7 of the show is actually going to be a precursor to Book 7. So I will actually be screwed over by that reversal. So instead of watching the show, I have decided to read the books, and I run out of the room every time someone mentions a spoiler about the show. Now, Rhys's
Daenerys Targaryen.
I will slap you with my dick. Now, Rhys's problem with my decision is that Rhys has just given me all 3 seasons of Game of Thrones. Now, he has told me that I should not be angry whenever someone spoils a TV show for me.
It's your own fault because you've waited too long.
Sure. Now, if your kid has to watch Star Wars... No, we're actually going to talk about this.
I am. It's just because Brendan's sort of grown.
I'm cringing over here.
Yeah.
So...
No, the series... Season 4... Season 5 is about to start.
Yeah.
Which means Season 4 has been out for almost a year.
Yeah.
If you haven't watched it by now and someone spoils it for you, it's your own fault. You should have... No, because I would say on a show like Game of Thrones, the statute of limitations for spoilers...
is about 2 days?
No. It's dickheads will spoil it for you after 2 days anyway.
Yeah. Trust me, Manila spoils it on the night itself.
Yeah,
so.
but I would say the statute of limitations for spoilers, like, if you're in a room and someone starts talking about it and they spoil something for you, it's your own fault if it's more than 3 months after.
Now, I pose this hypothetical situation to you. When your kids grow up and you introduce them to Star Wars and they watch a New Hope...
That's different.
No, wait.
Born.
Hear him out.
No, actually, I want to hear
That's different because they can't help that. They weren't
they do
born
not have autonomy to...
They weren't born at the time that those things came out.
Sure.
No,
But the thing is, the sheer logic is that some people find better kicks out of experiencing the product as they're watching instead of being spoiled before.
No.
But that's not what we're saying. What we're saying here is you've watched season 1, and then you've made a conscious decision to not watch the rest until you've read the books.
Yes.
Okay, I'll bring on the big guns here.
Okay.
That is a bullshit analogy, which is completely taken out of context for what Game of Thrones is. Okay. Game of Thrones is a zeitgeist television show which completely dominates the headlines and dominates the media for the period it's out. It's literally a cultural zeitgeist in the pure definition of it.
Sure.
Star Wars is something that happened 20 years before any of us were born. Sure. So when our hypothetical kids would be born, Star Wars, and you're obviously referring to Luke, I am your father, that would have happened...
No, I am your father.
Whatever.
Thank you.
That would have happened 40 years, ideally 40 years before they were born. So that is not a fair analogy because you're talking about something that's nearly half a century old at that point. What Eddie is saying, and what I agree with,
It's like
is
dropping spoilers for World War II.
Yeah.
yeah, it's like saying, "Hey, guess
The
what? Hey,
Nazis
it's
lost.
like, hey,
Guess what? The Nazis lost World War II.
No,
Don't tell me spoilers!
History is not
I'm
an
still
entertainment
reading the
product.
history.
A better,
World War II was pretty entertaining.
a better example would be, hey, I hate to break it to you, Jesus dies, but then he's back 3 days later. Spoilers. That's more of what it is. It's something that is so culturally ingrained in the pop culture that there's no way to differentiate it from anything else.
Sorry, you mentioned Jesus dying. Have you seen the superhero text messages? It's got Cable and Cyclops talking to each other. Turns out Jesus is actually Wolverine, and Cable's like, just how long has that memoryless bastard been around?
Fair enough. So, again, the argument is that Eddie's making, which I completely agree with, and we've had this conversation many times over the years, and I still maintain that you're completely wrong.
Okay. Because it's merely an opinion.
No, it is merely an opinion, but my thing is that, okay, something that happens in, say, Season 2 of Game of Thrones.
Sure.
That came out in
3 years ago.
Yeah, 2012.
Sure.
If I'm having a conversation with Eddie about something that happened in Season 2...
And then you get mad, and
we get spoiled...
If because you're the one that hasn't seen it, and you get mad at us for spoiling it for you, we're just going to turn to you and say...
That's not our fault. That's your fault, because you've made a conscious decision to not be up to date with...
So now we've established that there is a statute of limitation.
Yeah.
Now, what if I were to come up to you and say, look... Okay, go on.
So, yeah, just one thing. It's just like, it's not like... You've made the conscious decision to not stay up to date.
Sure.
Other than some people, it's like, I can't physically watch the show because I can't get it or something like that.
Sure.
Fair enough for them because they haven't been able to watch the show.
I had that with Boardwalk Empire.
But you've made the decision not to watch the show.
If I come up to you, hypothetically, you haven't watched Fear 7 last week, and I said, hey, the ending where blah, 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 and you say, what the fuck, man? I still haven't watched it. Wait 1 second. I have had time. I have the autonomy to go and watch it. But I still haven't watched it because, I just had better things to do. But you spoiled it for me.
No.
But that's different. That movie is still in cinemas, though.
Eddie, Eddie, you've walked into your own trap because you said that you agreed as a statute of limitation.
No, I don't. I'm going by what you're saying.
No, but that's what our argument is that we're saying that there's a statute of limitation, and that statute of limitation is a number of years. If we're talking about if you spoiled the ending to Fast and Furious 4 or Tokyo Drift, that is a different conversation.
Now,
that is something that's past the statute of limitation.
Can I kind of
for things like movies? For things like movies, I would say the statute of limitations is a few months after it leaves the cinemas.
But the thing is, it is simply an opinion. You just said that you think it is so and so. Okay, fair enough if you have a statute of limitation. Now I'm saying my statute of limitation is pretty much infinite because I want to experience products.
Well,
the
no,
way that
but
they were
then
intended.
the onus is on you.
Yeah.
Because that is a very, very, very particular and quite frankly selfish view to have. It is selfish.
A lot of
I will leave
Hang on,
when
wait.
you're talking about Game of Thrones spoilers.
No,
Yeah,
but that's the thing.
this is
That's
what
the thing.
I
Is that,
wanna
like,
bring
out
up.
of respect, we wouldn't talk about them
Sure.
with you here. But we're saying that if you did overhear us talking about a Game of Thrones season 2 spoiler, like I wouldn't tell you what happened at the end of season 4. If anyone who hasn't seen season 4, I wouldn't say it. But you've also got to realize that you've made a conscious decision to not participate in these conversations. So therefore, it's not fair for us to alter the way we act because of a conscious decision you've made years ago.
Can I bring in where I can understand where Julian's coming from, and I can understand where you two are coming from. You can use this for like Boardwalk Empire, right? I'm making my way through season 5.
It's a left field show, but yeah.
Yes.
It's a really
good
nice show.
though.
The only way I could watch it was about a month before the new season would come out. I'd have to buy it, right? So I'd go out, buy it, and then marathon it.
Yeah.
I hadn't seen any of season 5. I come home. Mum and Dad are watching season 5. There was no way for me to leave the room because I was trying to eat dinner because I'd just gotten home from work after a massive late shift. Last episode, I see what happens.
Yeah.
So I still want to watch season 5, and it wasn't entirely their fault. I've walked in, they didn't know what time I'd be home, so I've walked in, and in passing, I've seen this in passing. I have the same thing happen with a couple of mates. I want to play Dark Souls 2. They're talking about Dark Souls 2. I don't realise it until they go, oh, in Dark Souls 2, have you ... And I'm like, what the hell? That spoiled it. So if I walk into I'm walking in somewhere, someone starts bringing up, and they preface a conversation with, in blank, in this show, in this game, if it's something I don't want to be spoiled on, it's on me to be like, hey, look, okay,
It's on you to either say,
if
hey,
you're going
can
to talk about
can you
something
not talk
after
about
the
this?
first hour, can you not? If you're going to talk about something at the end of the game, can, like, maybe be a bit quieter, or, like, let me know so I can, like, put headphones in or just walk out or something.
Yeah.
All right, well, I'll give you an example. Something like Breaking Bad. I wasn't too fond of Breaking Bad. I was watching it with Nick, and Nick and I just stopped watching it for whatever reason. And the way it was doing
You
is
never
that
got back to it.
no, I did get back to it, but I stopped waiting for Nick because I was worried about spoilers. Like, the show had already finished, and I completely knew that if the show got spoiled, it's my fault for not being up to date with it.
Yeah.
Because it's my fault for not watching it.
So
when
it's a strange logic, but
No, but that's the
No,
thing.
no,
It's
I
like
can
it's
see where
the
he's
show.
coming
Like,
from.
if someone talks about the ending for Breaking Bad, I'm not going to blame them for talking about the ending of Breaking Bad. Like, it's a show that had been on for a number of years. I'd been meaning to watch it, and it had been 6 months since the show had finished off television. And so I was consciously aware that I'm living on essentially a countdown clock before someone ruins the ending of Breaking Bad. And that's what happened. I was listening to a podcast, and someone on the podcast inadvertently said how the show ends.
And
They didn't do it deliberately. They weren't like, hey, spoilers, such and such happens.
Sure.
It was literally, they were talking in conversation and gone, oh yeah, but when this happened, how did that make you feel? Oh shit, I probably shouldn't have said that.
And
Wouldn't you have preferred not to be able to have been spoiled?
Yeah, I would have preferred not to be able to spoil, but I'm not angry that it was spoiled because I understood that I had taken a risk.
And this is
by
the other
not
thing.
keeping up to date with
That's
it.
fair enough. Now, the only thing I'm requesting of people is that they are socially aware enough to think, oh, okay,
that's
this
fair
guy-
enough.
Yeah,
but that's
that's-
the only
If
thing
you
I'm
walk
requesting.
into
That is
if you
literally
walk
the
into a
only-
room and we're going, oh, by the way, we're talking about Game of Thrones,
Yeah.
and you go, oh, okay, I will leave the room.
Yeah.
Or
I'm
you walk
completely
into a
fine with
room
that.
and you say, hey guys, I haven't seen this yet. Could you maybe not talk about it? That's fine.
Yeah.
But then
But let's just say hypothetically, though, we'll continue to Game of Thrones for a minute.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're up to season 5 now. When do you think you're going to
catch up.
Yeah, actually,
after that?
that's a good
Because that's the
question.
thing. Like, what if we're saying that we're talking about like the show's finished, it's season 7 or whatever it is, or season 8, whenever it finishes, and you still haven't read it because you've been putting it off. So
Sure.
you're comfortable missing out on
Yes.
7 to 8 years of shared collective experiences with people because you want to read books which are arguably deteriorate with quality as they go on.
Hey,
Sure. No,
No, they do.
That's
they
fine.
don't.
That's the point. It's
Yeah.
arguably like
No, no,
you-
But
that's a fair
can I add
request.
to that? Like, what because you're reading or trying to read the books, what constitutes a spoiler if like I said, "Oh, Game of Thrones goes to space," and like I'm trying not to actually use a decent spoiler, but if I say
do now, we don't know. They've got free reign.
well,
Yeah.
it's dwarven space magic. Like if I say, Game of Thrones goes to space, or like, oh, they're fighting in like low orbit, or something stupid like that. They're fighting. Yeah, they're fighting in the Civil War. Actually, that works perfect. Because it's something that could vary slightly from one end to another, from books or show. So if I'm saying that to you, does that constitute a spoiler? Is it me saying the way you're watching it is different to the way you're consuming it is different to how everyone else is consuming it?
That's completely fair.
Yeah.
I do admit that my style of experiencing this is very different. I'm someone who, I know it sounds very weird and very introverted, but I prefer doing things by myself.
Yeah.
I actually enjoy
That's fine.
I understand that.
I like experiencing fiction by myself.
Yeah.
Okay.
In Brendan's scenario, I would prefer to not know anything whatsoever because finding that out is awesome. Discovering that through the book.
Mm-hmm.
Coming back to Rhys's question, hypothetically, if it takes me 5 years to actually catch up, hypothetically, which is an extreme end, I believe that I am justified in not wanting to be spoiled. I will understand if I'm accidentally spoiled. Completely understand. And
just a quick thing. Have you finished reading all the books that are currently out?
No.
What book are you up to?
I'm still reading book 2, so season 2.
So
I'm
you've got
very
a lot
far
to catch
behind.
up on.
How?
But
when
that
did you decide to start reading the books?
Last year.
Last year.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It doesn't matter.
No,
It doesn't matter.
It's been longer than that because you didn't. Because season 2, because you didn't watch from season 2 onwards because you wanted to read books. That's too
There was a huge gap.
Are you a slow reader, or you just don't have time to read?
Slow reader and other activities as well. Okay, but that's beside the point.
Yeah.
The point is principle. Now, I completely am fine with. If it's my fault, I completely understand. Of course, shit happens. Of course, I'm going to be pissed. Of course, I want to experience it. All I'm requesting is that people have some sort of awareness. I've got a very close friend who, after a certain purple wedding, talked about a certain character's exit from the show that night.
You're not spoiling anything for us. You can say you said certain characters.
I'm going to defend our mutual friend here for a second.
So on the night itself, you're saying that our mutual friend on the night itself who posted about the purple wedding.
Yeah, okay. No, I disagree with that per se because I don't believe that
there's no buffer.
No, I don't believe that if it hasn't come out before you can post about it online, that's a 24-hour, 48-hour thing. The moment you can post about it online is when you've got the news articles posting about it, or when the memes come out, when it suddenly becomes something that is out of the individual control and becomes more of a professional, broader thing.
I get that.
So that's the thing with living in a digital age. It's hard to isolate yourself.
Yeah.
But at the same, it's hard to isolate yourself, and it's very easily done to isolate yourself, if that makes sense. It's hard to avoid certain topics. At the other time, it's completely and utterly easy to engross yourself in one specific thing and not hear anything else. From, with Twitter and with Facebook and Reddit and all these, blogs and stuff, it's very easy to seek out, if you want a review of every single season of Game of Thrones, you can find them with no spoilers whatsoever. You can also find them where they go into elaborate detail, and it's
we're more talking about unintentionally coming across spoilers information. We'll use a mutual example. Star Wars Episode 7. Apart from what the official trailers are, I don't want to know anything about that movie. So I'm now on a complete blackout about Star Wars. I will talk about the universe and I will have a hypothetical discussion about where I think it would go. But apart from what J.J. Abrams wants me to see, I don't want to know anything about that movie going forward. Something like Avengers 2, I'm less inclined to care because it's more formulaic. You already know what's going to happen based on what the sequels are. But I want to go into Star Wars as fresh as possible.
Oh, yeah.
Saying that, the same thing happened with Dark Knight Rises, where I went on a complete information blackout in the 4 months leading up to that movie. That was when I would consciously not read articles. I would skip past podcasts. I would still watch the trailers, but there was nothing else to it. And I managed to keep myself more or less completely isolated from that film, and I was still incredibly underwhelmed by
it. The thing I find interesting...
how disappointed were you with that movie?
We could have an entire Batman conversation. No, you and I, we sat next to each other in that movie, and I remember we looked at each other, and that was when we had one of those moments, like with the fucking thing in like a couple of years earlier, where we're like, something's not right.
Yeah. So, the thing I found
that was our Batman 89.
With Julian and his spoilers, when we went and saw Fast and Furious the other night, an ad for the Avengers Age of Ultron came on. I'm sitting next to you, and what do? You basically curl up into the fetal position with hands over your ears and eyes, trying to avoid as much as possible. Right. Meanwhile, I'm there just being like, oh yeah, that's gonna happen. That's a thing. Cool.
Now we're running pretty close to the time. We've got about 20 minutes left, and we've still got 2 or 3 topics to cover. So quickly, Rhys, what happened to you today that has completed your life? You said before that something completed your life.
Well, for those of you who are unaware, I've had I'm a little bit of a fan of a TV show called The Wire. And
no,
I know.
You like The Wire?
I know, it's a little bit shocking.
Yeah,
that is not your kind of show.
Are you...
And today I finally managed to achieve one of my lifelong ambitions of being able to legitimately give HBO money in return for viewing their content immediately.
Yes. Okay.
So after what took about 3.5 to 4 hours.
I'd say about 4 hours.
About 4 hours. And involved quite literally getting help from a random American on the other side of the world, I managed to set up HBO Now on my Apple TV. So not only has Apple given me the iPad and the iPhone and the soon-to-be Apple Watch, they've also given me HBO.
No.
A quick
An American has given you HBO.
Just a quick description of what happened is Rhys had to set up a completely new Apple ID. So he tried to do that himself.
Got halfway there.
He got halfway there, but it's still, even though he said he was from the US, he lied about being from the US. It would,
in my heart, I am.
It would still register him as being from Australia. So eventually, what he decided to do is he contacted, or he put out a message on some Facebook group that he's a part of. For IGN fans or something like that?
Podcast Beyond.
And some very kind American gentleman, if he's listening to this...
Oh, he will be. We're sending this to him.
Yeah, so when you're listening to this, Rhys, thanks you very much. He had to get a complete stranger to create an Apple ID for him and then put money onto the account from a US iTunes card that Rhys had bought earlier on.
It was a very complicated process.
Just so Rhys could give money to HBO so he can watch such amazing content as Game of Thrones.
Yeah, legitimately. So I will literally be the only one I know who is legitimately watching HBO's Game of Thrones.
You will,
and I will have that smug air of superiority over a lot of you parsing fucks.
No,
it's okay. I'm coming to your house to watch it, so I will have the pleasure of watching it legitimately as well.
I was going to say, Rhys will have himself watching it legitimately, and like 12 people he doesn't even really know on his floor being like, we want to avoid a $30,000 fine. Hey Rhys, can we come over?
So I was very happy about that. So that means that now I have HBO, Netflix, and Hulu Plus, and so I basically have all the benefits of being an American. That's really all I can think about the benefits of that country. Is like cable.
Yeah.
Now, Julian, before
you have full strength
in our argument before you mentioned Fast and Furious 7 and how we went and saw it last week. Just a quick thing back to our little argument again. With movies, I would say you can't spoil it for someone as long as the movie is still in cinemas.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fair.
That is, you've specifically given a time frame?
A lot of people agree that like while a movie is still in cinemas, you shouldn't spoil it for other people.
Yeah, that's fair.
And my time frame is slightly longer.
Fair enough.
No, okay. Slightly longer. My time frame is longer.
I don't want to continue the argument, but sure. you mentioned before that we went and saw Fast and Furious 7 last week.
Bro, I thought that movie was amazing. By the way,
without giving any spoilers. That movie was...
What do you mean spoilers? It's a fucking Fast and Furious movie.
Yeah, no.
Oh my god, they raced fast cars.
I hate to break it to you.
I know.
Love that movie very simply.
I know, but still, we don't want to spoil the ending.
Let's be fair, because that movie
was different compared to other Fast and Furious movies
Well,
because of what's
but
happening.
they also advertised that as well too. That's the thing. That's been heavily talked about. So like, we won't say how the movie ends exactly because it is a completely different movie for its last 5 minutes or so. It is almost a different film entirely.
Yeah, there's the movie and then there's the farewell to Paul Walker.
Yeah, because the farewell to Paul Walker, the last 5 minutes is an actual film. It is
after the ending. Then when they start the montage, that's not the movie anymore. That was that
entire period. But that entire thing was basically from the beach.
We weren't going to spoil it. You're just like the end to when they do exactly this thing.
Okay. I'd say once the
it's a fucking Fast and Furious
once
movie.
the highway scene after the beach scene finishes.
Because it's
because that was
okay. Let's for fuck's sake, stop talking about the specifics. Let's not spoil it. We're in the montage and then there's a highway.
When the movie gets to 2 hours, 9 minutes, and 43 seconds.
But during the montage, there is a little spiel. There's a slight speech by Vin Diesel, which is no. Which is not a speech by his character. It's a speech of Vin Diesel saying goodbye to a beloved friend.
I see where he's going.
I didn't realise the movie stopped showing in the cinemas. I thought it was still currently.
I'm not giving spoilers. I'm saying
that's why you literally just said you described the entire last 5 minutes of the movie.
No, I didn't.
What?
It's not the character speaking. It's Vin Diesel saying goodbye to his friend Paul Walker who passed away.
Yeah,
that's the spoiler. That's what the thing is. I mean,
that's not a spoiler. Everyone knows that Paul Walker died 6 months ago.
Then what do you think the spoiler is? What were you skirting around?
I was skirting around the end of the movie. I'm talking about the montage in which they were saying...
What do you call the end of the movie? What would you...
The beach scene.
That's just...
No. I see where he's coming from.
All right.
He's wrong, but I see where he's coming from.
The end of the film is basically once the actual movie gets resolved with the whole, fucking...
The Fast and the Furious.
Yeah, once the Fast and the Furious stop being Fast and Furious. And
they become slow and lethargic.
And then it literally becomes a different film for the last 5 minutes. So basically
it's still part of the movie, though. That's not what
I'm saying. I'm saying when you get to that beach scene...
That is still part of the movie. Up until they say goodbye to Paul Walker with that little montage of all the other films.
Okay. So what that is them saying goodbye.
Yes, that is them saying
goodbye. That is them saying goodbye to the character.
No.
That's what it is. It is
No, it's not.
I think it's a mix of both, to be honest. I think it honestly is a hybrid.
That's the thing.
It works as a movie, but at the same time, it's a very sweet
for me, the Fast and Furious film... That Furious 7 ended right after the fucking,
we get it.
That's when that ended. Once it gets to the beach thing in the film, that is literally the franchise saying goodbye to the character and the actor. So that entire sequence for me is the ending of the movie because it's literally an epilogue. It is literally what it is. It is a cinematic epilogue because that part there has absolutely nothing to do with the rest of the film. Like if the movie just ended where the movie should have ended, which was, before the beach scene. Because that's the thing. The thing with the beach scene, because even if you take the example of the Paul Walker thing, the beach scene was something that was written after Paul Walker's death.
Yeah.
If Paul Walker hadn't died...
As the tribute.
That's not how the movie would have ended. The movie would have just ended at that, because Paul Walker would have still continued with it.
Yes,
Eddie
I know
has
that.
A point, because specifically, we're going into minor spoiler territory now.
No one's going to listen to this before the movie comes out, so it's fine. We can talk about it. We can actually talk about the movie. It's okay. This is a safe zone. We could talk about the
Okay, spoilers now. If you haven't seen it, turn it off.
There is that plot of Paul Walker's character struggling with being a family man or the bullets and the cars. But that epilogue scene, it finally resolves that because you finally see the ending to that arc.
He finally accepts that he should be a family man.
Exactly.
And then there's the scene...
There's the parallel of him leaving the movie, leaving the show as... Brian, thank you.
What Rhys is saying is... sorry.
That was a rewrite because Paul Walker had died.
Yes, I understand that. But it's still part of the movie.
Yeah.
Up until after...
Now,
we are in spoiler territory, so I'm going to say... when when Paul Walker's character catches up to Dom on the road.
Yeah, and then they go their separate ways.
And they drive their separate ways.
Yeah.
There is then a little part about Dom talking about how no matter how far away, you'll still be my brother.
Yeah.
I see that.
Yeah.
Once he starts talking,
yeah,
that's a
montage. That is a montage. No, that's a tribute to someone who is no longer there.
But once he starts talking, I saw that as less of Dom saying goodbye to Brian,
no, that totally was the case.
And more.
We're not arguing with you on that. That's totally the case. My argument is that the ending of Fast and Furious is from that beach scene onwards, because that was something that was purely written as a result of Paul Walker's death. Even the whole thing that you're saying earlier about him struggling to be like a father. Yeah. That was a rewrite of the plot to cater for the fact that he had died, because they could only use him in certain things. Basically, the only thing that Paul Walker is actually in is the overseas stuff.
Yeah.
Everything that was more or less filmed in America isn't Paul Walker. He died before that stuff. And so, to the credit of the filmmakers, because it was a superb movie, because one of their leading men died halfway through the production. And if you weren't aware that Paul Walker had died, you would not.
You almost can't tell.
You would not. No, you can't tell. You would literally not be able to tell that was not Paul Walker if you were not aware that he was dead. The movie was so beautifully crafted
this
that
is
they
what
managed to cater for that.
This is what I really liked about the movie, is because we all found out 6 months ago Paul Walker died filming this movie. So we're like, well, shit, how is this movie going to work?
About a year ago. Yeah.
Maybe my news is slower. I don't know. We all find out that he actually died filming it, and we were like, well, shit, how is this movie actually going to work now? Then you go in, you watch the movie, and you'd kind of forgotten that he was dead, that the actor is no longer around. Watching it, you watch the movie, and you're like, this movie's great, it's a Fast and Furious movie. It gets to the montage, and when they resolve the whole, the conflict with a character and the conflict with one of their actors dying, the way it did it matched up so well that, me personally, I came out of the cinemas and the first thing I said to everyone was, Paul Walker is actually dead. I don't quite know how I feel. Because that montage to Paul Walker, he's a character that most people have seen for the past 12 years.
He's a mediocre actor in a franchise.
I know. I know.
Yeah, so it's an interesting thing. I like how people get so worked up with Paul Walker. I mean, rightly so. He seems like a nice guy.
Yeah.
But he was,
it's just one of those things. The way that they did it worked so well that I came out going, well, crap. Do I want another Fast and Furious? It's not going to have him in it. They could maybe try and use his brother who looks a lot like him and maybe have him as, a cameo.
I don't think Paul Walker's character is necessary in Fast and Furious. You could basically put any nondescript white guy in that movie and it would do the same thing.
Well, not really.
Well, what do you think about his character, what he did in 5 and 6? He was the token white guy, because that's the thing that the Fast and Furious movies do so
the 5 and 6 are heist movies.
I mean, if you look at the
Ocean's 11 with cars.
No, if you look at the character dynamics with the Fast and Furious movies, obviously it's in the later movies, it's been Vin Diesel, The Rock, Michelle Rodriguez, Han, the Chinese guy, those two black dudes. What are their names?
Japanese, but
Korean.
Yeah, the Korean. Is he Korean?
Korean.
Whatever. We're all.
No, Han's Japanese. That was all.
No, he's Korean, but he always wanted to live in Japan.
Right. Anyway,
so but the thing is, those characters have more of a plot impact than Paul Walker.
I think it's familiarity. I think what Brendan was talking about is
it
changes the anchor. Exactly.
I mean, the first
he's the everyman.
Yeah, and the first movie.
If we were all ridiculously attractive with washboard abs.
I am, but anyway, the first movie is Perfect Blue. It's Perfect Blue with cars. That's all it is.
Isn't the first movie literally a remake of another film called The Fast and the Furious?
No.
So.
I don't think it's a remake. It's definitely got the same name, but different plot, I think.
The second movie was, hey, this did really well.
The first movie was essentially Need for Speed, the movie. Yeah. And then they strayed away from it, and then
they made
a few years ago, they made Need for Speed, the movie, which was a fucking horrible movie.
And, I mean, just the way that movie ended was really well done, and like I said, I came out going, well, crap, he's actually dead, and they resolved it where he's gone his separate way, everyone else in the crew's gone their separate way. What happens now? Do they all just live their crime-free life? Doesn't happen. I don't know, it's well worth a watch, and if you get the chance, watch it and really kind of look at how it ends and say what your thoughts are from that. Whether you're like me and kind of go, well, crap, he's actually dead, or whether or not you're like everyone else at this table and just seems to be like, okay, yeah, cool, it was a movie.
No, it wasn't just a movie. Like, I really like the Fast and Furious films. I think that they're great cinema.
I enjoy off your brain. You watch something.
I enjoy all the Fast and Furious movies.
Like, it was.
We all were,
except for 4, yeah.
Except for 4, which was a horrendous.
4 is a train's work. It creates so many continuity plot problems.
It was a horrendous
That's
piece
why
of
you need
crap.
to watch it.
And the real problem with 4, regardless of continuity, is the fact that it's
haven't
not
seen it.
interesting.
You don't need to watch it to know that it's a piece of shit movie.
You have HBO now. It's fine.
So what were you saying, Julian?
It just wasn't interesting. Every other movie
really
has
wasn't.
something unique.
Yeah.
And even if it's something different from the previous movies, this felt like the first one, but with a I'm so serious vibe.
Yeah.
That's what, to me, 4 was.
Yeah.
It felt very much like going after the tone of the first film without having the fun. So
I say, like, I really like the movies. There's going to be a Fast and Furious 8. Like, the movie has
it's
made...
cash cow.
Yeah, it's made
187 million. Just over last weekend.
No, 340 million worldwide opening weekend.
See, I see it differently. Yes.
No, that would have been America, not here. There's no way in hell a movie could make 187 million in Australia.
No.
No movie has ever made that.
See, my opinion differs. I think the production company will want to make another movie, but after Paul Walker has died, because those cast members, they started off as just cast members, but they actually did become like best friends, and they
there will be another movie.
Here's the thing, I see where it's coming from.
I don't think they will be able to convince Vin Diesel or the others to make another one without Paul Walker.
No, they definitely will.
No, they can.
Okay, because Paul Walker wouldn't have wanted them to stop making them.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Like, Paul Walker, he was a factor in the movies, but, like, he was not a producer. He wasn't a writer.
Yeah.
He was a friend of Vin Diesel. But when you actually look at how...
It's essentially working with your co-workers. You get to know them, and when you leave... You go, hey, look, dude, best of luck, keep in contact, kind of thing.
And the fact
that's not how it was with those cast members, though. Vin Diesel has said on multiple occasions that he thought of Paul Walker as a brother.
No, that's fair enough, but like Vin Diesel's not going to stop making the movies because A, he loves making them. That's why he came back to it.
Yeah.
B,
Bills to pay.
like Paul Walker wouldn't have wanted him to stop making the movies. C, the movies make a shit ton of fucking cash.
You can't argue that Paul Walker wouldn't want them to stop. We don't know what Paul Walker wants.
Well, doesn't matter what Paul Walker would have wanted. The fact is that by that logic, then he also wouldn't have wanted them to stop either. Like, you can't say that they're going to stop because Paul Walker's gone. You don't know what he would have wanted. And the fact is that there are so many other extraneous values because these movies are not about friendship and family. These movies didn't...
Let
me finish.
There's literally a line, you have friends, I've got family.
Let me finish. These movies are not about friendship and family. These movies are about making a shit ton of cash and a shit ton of profit for what is realistically a low marketing and reasonably low production costs. These movies are money-making machines. That is why they have The Rock on it. That is why they have Jason Statham. That is why Vin Diesel can make his Riddick films, which I completely support. Because they have all these actors have these Fast and Furious films as anchor movies. That is why it's managed to go so long and so well. These movies are so insanely profitable that they will not stop making them. And so, they're not going to... And I can guarantee you that, like, all right, Paul Walker, he was a big part of it. He was a character. I don't think that he was an important character in the franchise. For me, he was just an anchor character between all the films, except for Tokyo Drift. But the first movie is...
he's the important character.
But that wasn't. But the first movie. But the first two movies. The first two movies were nowhere near as successful as Fast 5, because Fast 5, Fast 6, and Fast 7 are completely different types of films to what the first ones were.
Oh god, yeah.
And
they go from street racing to high school.
So I'm saying, like, there will be another movie. A movie that has a $340 million opening weekend is that will be there will be another film.
Hypothetically, coming back to Eddie's suggestion, if Vin Diesel opts out of Fast 8 and Fast 9, do we think that the movie will still be,
I think they won't be able to they won't be able to convince Vin Diesel to come back. That doesn't mean that they won't make another movie. they'll still continue.
Course,
they'll get someone else and they'll make another movie.
Yeah.
But the problem is that I reckon they won't be able to get the original cast because they have stated they've stated on multiple occasions that they were absolutely devastated by the loss of their friend who they thought of as a family member.
Of course. Of course.
If we can get
Anyone
rid of all those cast members, have the same formula, have the same logic, etc., it could still be a successful film.
This is what I was
They
going
could
to ask.
they could start a new franchise with a whole set of new characters.
That's what I was going to ask. Like, Eddie, you say like they mightn't get Vin Diesel back for another movie. If they don't, what do you think they could do to have a Fast and Furious movie? Because, all right, let's say if it's as tight knit,
they do something. They do something like the Fast and the Furious New Blood or something like that. And trademark, by the way, you can't have that. It's mine.
Do we replace any characters that leaves Fast and Furious movie with Nicolas Cage?
Solution.
No, Nicolas Cage would make a good villain in a Fast and Furious movie.
He'd make a good car.
No. That's when you need. Oh my god.
I mean, Vin Diesel's already talking about Fast and Furious 8. I'm sorry, Eddie, but Vin Diesel's already talking about the movie. It's in headlines.
Yeah.
He will be in Fast and Furious 8. Like, it's just... It's too much of a money-making, successful and entertaining property for him to not be a part of. And I don't see how, like...
And he enjoys doing them.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, if he didn't enjoy doing them, he wouldn't have come back from Fast and Furious 4.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is that these movies... Even The Rock, for instance, The Rock was not meant to be in Fast and Furious 7. I think they got The Rock in after Paul Walker, and he was retroactive.
Really?
Don't quote me on this, but I remember hearing something that The Rock was not meant to be in Fast and Furious 7 because he had scheduling conflicts with Hercules.
Yeah, and because
when they
we
were filming it, and there was
Kurt Russell instead playing that.
No, it wasn't. Kurt Russell was a replacement for another character, another actor, but he was another character. But even The Rock, after Paul Walker's death, apparently, don't quote me, this is just something I remember hearing like 12 months ago, rearranged his schedule so that he could be in the film. And so, like, I don't know, if I was to make a bet, like money, like I would, there was no
serious money.
It would
You'd put it on Vin Diesel being in
Fast and Furious 8. Like it would be so illogical for him to not do it.
The only thing that would kind of stipulate that is Vin Diesel comes back. Does he want to do a full movie, or does he want to be like, I still want to be involved with it. I don't want to be the huge character.
Vin Diesel's got bills to pay. Most of his films have not been successful lately. I mean...
Riddick wasn't.
I mean, I liked Riddick.
That was a great movie.
Yeah, it was a great movie, but that was not a box office success. I mean, how many box office successes has he actually got under his belt in the last decade? Like, the number is not that big. And so this movie is just like, this franchise is a money-making machine for him. That's why it's his priority. That's why...
And it gives him the chance to be like, hey, this is what I like to do. It gives me the chance to be like, look, I was in this. I want to star in a movie that has this kind of premise. I think this would be really cool. How do we do it? And yeah, it gives him that avenue to be like, look, I can cover bills, I can still do what I want to do. I don't just start cherry pick, like just taking any job offer that's thrown at me. That's... look, there's going to be another Fast and Furious, basically. That's what we're saying.
I won't worry about
that. Okay. Anyway.
I mean, like I said, I love the films. I'm very excited to see what happens with Fast 8. I'm sad that Paul Walker died, because by all accounts, he was a decent bloke, and, life sucks. It basically does. But honestly, if there's not a Fast Furious 8 with Vin Diesel, The Rock, maybe not The Rock because he's got his own stuff going on, but there will be one. That's like
the whole thing, like,
unless Vin Diesel dies.
Don't go.
Okay, guys.
He's a massive D&D player. He can't die. He stays inside too much.
Okay, guys, we're at about time, and things got a little bit heated with this podcast.
With Fast and Furious.
I got in an argument with Rhys about Fast and Furious, and Rhys and myself got in an argument with Julian over Game of Thrones, and
unscathed
Can we just
bitches.
applaud Brendan for having a cool mediator approach to everything? He doesn't actually, lose control. He just kind of.
That's because I'm like, when it comes to basically any kind of media, I'm the kind of odd one where it's like, yeah, I like this weird game. I like this weird movie. I don't really care. I don't have a huge investment in most things.
Yeah.
Well, we're hoping that the next podcast will be the fabled Star Wars podcast, which we've been trying to get off the ground for over
3
a month
weeks,
now.
yeah.
I wouldn't hold your breath over that though, because this has been a huge pain to try and organise.
No, I mean, last week was my fault because I wasn't feeling too well.
That's not your fault. You weren't feeling well.
Yeah,
That's
so
fine.
that was just like I wasn't in the right mindset to do a podcast.
Just
But we will have a fucking Star Wars podcast
eventually.
Yeah.
Also, for anything that I'm like massively interested in, none of you guys give a shit about,
No.
so you can't fight me on it.
We do need more than one person to have a legitimate topic.
Are you?
Yeah. But just to reiterate what I said before, keep writing into us, letting us know you're listening. Send us some questions. We'd love to answer your questions.
We've had some problems with uploading these to YouTube and various other places.
Yeah.
But we're in the middle of working that out.
Keep sending us your questions. We'd love to answer them. And also,
you'll hear our responses eventually. If
also,
one of us doesn't tell you.
Our question from before again is, what was your favorite game of the previous console generation? That would be Wii, Xbox 360, PS3, and we'll include PC as well.
And just a quick shout out to Next Level Games in Preston. Just seriously, if you're ever around Preston area, check that store out.
Okay, I'm Eddie.
I'm Julian.
I've been Brendan.
And I'm Rhys.
And we're signing off.
Sayonara.
Woo!